Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and we took quite the hiatus from doing video for a while during the off season after basketball ended, and I just need a break sometimes from radio, video, all that stuff. There's plenty of written stories previewing the season, talking about recruiting and all that on Inside the Red Raiders. But I'm back doing video, and I thought, what better way to start than to answer some questions from Inside the Red Raiders subscribers. It's been a minute, so let's dive right into these questions. First one comes from Tech Freak, who wants to know if I'm going to any away football games. If not, which would I pick and why? That's a good question. No, I don't plan on it. The time traveling, time travel, as far as I know, is not possible yet, but I think we're headed that way. But the time spent on the road takes away from writing, content, all that, things that I have to do at home. There are some advantages, don't get me wrong. There are to traveling. I used to go to a lot of Tech's road games, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, back in the day. Sometimes when TCU, when it was in Fort Worth, of course they're not playing TCU this year, but to answer your question, which one would I go to? I would have to say Utah, Kansas State, or Arizona State. I think those are the three best away games on the schedule. And out of those three, I've been to a couple games, like I said, on the road. But in terms of Kansas State, Arizona State, and Utah, I've been to Arizona State. That was the Kalen Ballage game, and I love Phoenix. It's a fun town. I was there just a couple summers ago with one of my buddies, and we had a blast. But I've been there. I've done that. Kansas State, I haven't been there yet, so that's up there. But I think I've never even been to the state of Utah, so I think that's a huge game. If Tech's going to accomplish a lot of the things they want to accomplish this year, they probably need to win that game in Utah, and it's right off the bat in Big 12 play. That's a tough game on paper, and then potentially if Utah rebounds from last year, that could be rough. And like I said, never been to even the state of Utah, so that's where I'd go. Rue0302 says he may have missed it, but is David Bailey an every down player? Yes, he is. He's known as an elite pass rusher, but he is good against the run as well. I wouldn't say he's like stout, but the plan is for him and Romello Height to be on opposing ends of the line of scrimmage, coming off the edge. So, yeah, both are expected to be every down type players. Now, if there's different formations and stuff like that, one of them might come off the field if you need an extra DB, legit DB. But I expect David Bailey to be an every down player. Raider Power 81 says, time to spill the beans. Where does Mighty Joe Yeager buy his clothes? Intrigued Mind wants to know. Well, this is definitely a question for Mighty Joe, and I'm flying solo today. I think I'm going to, for a while, do some videos solo. But I know he does order a lot, whatever the old process. It's not going to be just off Amazon or something like that. It's going to be an old school process, though I do know he has ordered off for cowboy boots, hats, and watches, I don't know if he actually calls somebody or if it's online, but best bet is it's probably he found a phone number and called and ordering off a catalog, going back a generation or something like that. Point Man 1 says he saw that Indiana is paying $500,000 to Virginia to cancel a home-and-home series for 27 and 28. They're replacing that series with lower-level patsies at home. He wants to know, do I think Big 12 or Big 10 and SEC teams are trying to isolate themselves from the other Power 4 leagues by not playing them? I don't think so. I mean, look, no level of conspiracy is too far-fetched at this point, but I think everyone's just padding their non-conference, to be honest, because their conference is going to be tough enough. The schedule will be considered good enough for them to make the playoffs or what have you, even with patsies, as you said, for non-conference games. And then Point Man says, does Tech desire more home and homes of Power 4 teams but can't get them to schedule us, or are we getting pretty much what we want? Well, I know this Oregon thing was set up 5, 6, 7 years ago or something like that. A lot of these schedules are set way in advance. So, I mean, Oregon State was considered a Power 4 school when it was scheduled. is kind of going through. They did Arizona State, Oregon, now Oregon State. So I think that's just kind of how the schedule's gone in terms of wanting to do one one FCS, one non-Power Four Division One, and then a Power Four was just kind of the formula for a while. It'll be interesting to see how they switch it up. Though I do think the 7 home games is something that Tech has desired and looks like they're going to get for, well, we'll have to see, but for the next several years. Point Man 1 wants to know kind of an open-ended question on Tech's offense, mainly thinking about play selection and style. What kind of things should we expect to see more from the offense this year compared to last year? What about less of? Well, everybody wants me to say less wide receiver screens, and that might be the case. The wide receiver screens will be considered part of the running game, part of Tech's offense moving forward, even with Mac Leftwich. But I think we'll see, in terms of what we'll see more and more motion. I think we'll see motion pre-snap almost every snap on Tech's offense in order to keep the defense on its heels, in order to see what kind of coverages they're playing, all that stuff. That's a big part of Mac Leftwich's offense and his philosophy. But in terms of Tech's offense, like I expect Tech to run the ball some. They're still going to air it out. But Mac Leftwich has a history of running the ball, having a truly balanced offense, being prolific in both areas. And I asked him when he was hired in the press conference, about that. And if he plans to continue, he says, yes, sometimes they'll run for 300 yards if that's what the defense are giving them, or the conditions, situation, whatever, to win a game. But sometimes they'll throw for 450 and run less. So I do, if you look at his averages, his offenses typically run for over 200 yards a game while throwing for over 300 yards a game, which is a really nice combo. So I expect a more balanced approach, but we're still going to see a lot of the same concepts we saw under Kitley. Next question comes from Syntax Red Raider. He says, who do you think will be the team that surprises everyone this year? Engines actually answer a lot of these questions. Thank you, I guess, for your help and contributing. But I do agree with him in that I think Houston could become bowl eligible under Wally Fritz. It'll be interesting to watch. If they do that, that would be a big accomplishment for a Cougars program that has been struggling before, but definitely since it joined the Big 12. Get Your Ass to Mars wants to know if Texas Tech goes 6-6 or worse this season, what does that mean for McGuire? He said there's a lot of hype this season, but the reality is it's not a whole new roster. They actually bring back a lot, more than you think, considering all the transfers they brought in. He says, and coordinators, and that's a good point, and I don't hear that talked about as much. He said it could mean for a rockier season than we all hope. Wonder what happens if it's messy, less than wonderful season, if Cody goes out and buys another coach. Well, I think that's something to consider. Look, I think Texas Tech is all in on Joey McGuire, but they're literally all in on the next season. So if they were to go 6-6 or even worse, I can't say that they would definitely replace McGuire, but in terms of looking for who might be next, it would be irresponsible at that point not to do so. So that's something to consider moving forward. It could be a big name. Cody Campbell has gone out and I think shocked a lot of people with how he's opened up the checkbook, him and others. But Cody Campbell has definitely been the spearhead in terms of assembling this roster. Why would he stop at a coach? So if it's a very disappointing season like you're talking about, I think it is possible that they look at least kick the tires on some big names. Now, whether McGuire will actually be on the hot seat, how hot his seat is and all that, I don't know. But that would be a disaster of a result for sure. Let's see what else we have left. BA Raider says, since Oho, it's Felix Oho, 5-star left tackle out of Mansfield Lake Ridge, who has agreed to a contract and committed to Texas Tech. He did in early July, either late June or early July, I can't remember. But this summer, it was obviously, he's the highest rated guy. If he ends up signing with Texas Tech, he would be the highest rated guy to sign with Texas Tech, at least in modern history, recruiting history for sure, but probably in Texas Tech football program history. But BA Raider wants to know, is it final, and would he be locked in for sure unless the contract gives him escape clause or buyout? I don't think it's like final lock-in type deal. I think once he signs his letter of intent, signs the contract, which I'm not sure he has, I know he's agreed upon to it. That's what's been reported. And the most credible thing I've seen is 3 years, $750,000 per year. And then if these rules change where it goes from the current revenue model, revenue sharing model, to back to kind of the Wild West, you can just claim NIL and pay whatever, for whatever the market demands. Then like in excess of $3 million would be added to the deal. So I don't think it's a done deal. I don't think it's like written and signed in blood, as they say. But he is committed. He does appear to be a Red Raider. And then once he signs those contracts, then it'll be locked in. Last question comes from Maztec, who says, for low 4-star and high 3-star players, how much is their decision making to pick a school based on the money? I would imagine that is a mix of facilities like in the coaching staff, scheme, vibes, academic, etc. So you heard on a podcast that a linebacker that Tech lost ability last year was due to the money. Is it 50% money and 50% everything else on average? Or do they come with an agent and it's 70% money and 30% everything else? Yes, it's a lot of money. It's funny as like, there are so many excuses I used to hear fan bases make. I'm not just talking about, obviously I interact with Texas Tech's fan base the most, but now that is the, they just overspent for him. That's the excuse I hear every fan base say. It's funny. It's like, hearing UT fans complain about Tech buying players, overspending for players is hilarious. I think, and the irony in that. Look, money is very important. I'll go back to a conversation I had at Big 12 Media Day with Romello Height, Tech's 4-star outside linebacker transfer. I asked him, I said, if you don't mind talking a little bit about your recruitment and some contract and just how it all shook out for you, how it breaks down. Do you mind being frank with me? He's like, no, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll tell you how it really was and how it was for him. And to give you an idea how different it is Romello Height as a transfer, and a lot of times this happens as players. I've talked to the players, the recruits themselves, both football and basketball, where they go on a visit. And this isn't always the case. This is just for a lot of the cases, especially late in a recruiting cycle or for a transfer. It's more business-like, although everything is a transaction pretty much now in college sports. But they go and visit campuses without, a lot of times, even themselves talking to a coach. It's, for example, for Texas Tech with football, it would be James Blanchard, the general manager, talking with the player's agent. And players as young as I've seen, juniors for sure, even a couple sophomores, already be with agencies. So it'll be a GM for a college football team or college team, like Buffington for Tech basketball. We'll talk with an agent, and that gets the player on campus. And then the coaches and the players or prospective recruits interact. Like, that's crazy to me for college. That is very much a pro sports model. But it's the money and the offer and kind of the things they have going on, the initial talks, that gets the player on campus, and they're not even involved in it. So for Romello Height, it was a big deal. Like the money, like, okay, money's right, I'll go check it out. He comes to Tech, sees these amazing facilities, great vibe, as you said, Mass Tech, and he said, okay. He shut down all the rest of his. This is a guy who's played at USC, Georgia Tech, I think Auburn, something like that. Unless I'm confusing a couple of guys, but he's played at multiple Power 4 schools. But he said, I'm shutting down all my other visits. This is where I want to go. He said, I didn't even take the offer extended to me and try and counter or negotiate with other schools. I did negotiate with Tech. I just accepted the number. A, it was a good number. B, though, all the other stuff held close, and that's for sure. And I can't speak for every other school's situation because I'm not in it. I don't know. I'm not around them as much, obviously, near as much as I am Tech. But it is a good vibe up there. The facilities are first rate, which do matter, but money is the most important. And to be honest, it'd be the most important to us. We're looking at like a job. It wouldn't be always the deciding factor, but it gets you to the table and is a big part of it. So when Tech's losing players to other schools, I'm not one of those guys like, oh, TCU or Baylor or whoever just paid this, whipped out the checkbook, because if Tech really wanted them, they could do that too. So, you know, it's just part of the business now. I'm definitely not saying it's all about the money, but it is a lot about the money. I mean, it'd be disingenuous not to say both those statements. But speaking of being genuine, I just want to say it's good to be back. I did need that break from some of the videos and the radio, and our rockin' the Red Raider outfit or rockin' pregame will be back in August, a week before Tech kicks off the season. We'll go for several months throughout at least basketball season. So I'm ready to get back. There's a couple weeks till fall camp starts. And then, man, we'll be rocking and rolling all the time here on this YouTube channel, but also on Inside the Red Raiders and, of course, up there at the Jones. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.